Hello. That's. Thanks for having me here again. And thank you to everyone who made it. I hope that this is a useful exercise, and I hope you get to learn a lot, and I hope you get everything you came here for. I mean, just the fact that you're here is already pretty special, I think. There's a lot of other things you could be doing right now. Like, instead of listening to this, you could go get lunch, but I think I'm probably the last thing between you and lunch. Anyway, so is this mic okay? Doing fine? Okay, cool. So I'm going to talk about what's next for GenAI. We've seen some talks probably, and you've probably been hearing about this all year, like what's happening, it's been crazy. Let's talk about what do you want to be prepared for. So quick intro, I grew up in Islamabad, and right after A-levels, I got into Princeton with a full scholarship, which was great. I didn't know I was going to do computer science, but I sort of took some classes and realized I was good at it, and I really loved it, so here I am. I joined Google after, and then currently I'm at Labs, which is a slightly new division at Google, which I'll talk about. What is Labs? So if you haven't seen this yet, this was launched last week. Labs.google, that's it, no .com, just labs.google if you want to go check. The point of labs.google is to show the world what we're experimenting with, and what we're doing at Labs is we're trying to build new products that wouldn't have existed without GenAI. So it's different from, like, of course, like we're going to put generative AI on docs and sheets and Gmail and everything, and you're seeing copilots on every single product. So there's more to it than that, right? We need to sort of take a step back and reimagine, if we had this capability all along, what could we have built? So we're going to share some of those experiments, and you can keep taking a look. One that's live now is Notebook LM, which is sort of like you can put your own documents over there and then ask questions. So if you're doing research, writing a paper, it's a very helpful tool. So we're hoping to learn a lot from that. A necessary reminder before we go forward, none of this talk represents Google's views on things. I can only represent my own views on things, so don't take this as a Google view. Just necessary reminder. Okay, so real quick, I was here a year ago, and I talked about 4 lessons that I've learned from 4 years of being at Google. And the funny thing is, well, all of those still apply, especially number 3, always be learning. But then the next year was completely wild. Okay, so everything changed after December 2022. You probably all know why. So here's just a quick recap of what happened. I've only put the highlights in here. There's a lot more, so many frameworks and applications, and you've probably seen Twitter is wild. Everyone's building things every single day, and like your knowledge might be out of date like 2 weeks later or 1 week later. These are just some of the major launches, obviously culminating in Gemini recently, which we'll talk about as well. But why did that actually matter? So let's talk about some numbers. The numbers were supposed to come in one at a time with the animation, but I don't know. We'll just go with this. So ChatGPT, as you saw, 100 million users, fastest to 100 million users ever. And obviously, Threads was even faster, but Threads was a social media product, and it was everyone on Instagram was forced to download it, et cetera, et cetera. So we don't talk about that. But this is a brand new product. No one has used anything like this before. And suddenly 100 million people are on it in 2 weeks, which is insane, of course. But then also, as the year progressed, we see $70 billion of funding raised by AI startups. And this is in a year that was otherwise a horrible year for startups and the economy and tech with layoffs and everything. Everything was going crazy, but AI startups on the forefront, and this doesn't account for, obviously, large companies are also investing more. This is just startups. 2/3 of IT leaders, according to a Salesforce survey, think that GenAI is a game changer, which is obviously those people are on the forefront, they know what's going on. And then most importantly, I think, this was in July that McKinsey published that 80% of professionals have some exposure to GenAI, which is insane. Only 6 months before July did this sort of come out, and now 80% of the people are exposed to this technology. So, but through the year, some things have changed. We started out with just, AI is this new hammer that we have, so let's put it on everything. Let's build a co-pilot, let's do something with AI. So Chevrolet dealerships are building chatbots, or everyone's building their own chatbot, but is it actually useful? So through the year, I think people sort of took a step back, or especially, so this thinking is from Sequoia, which is a really large venture capital fund, and they're seeing these patterns where, we have a very powerful tool, but you still need to focus on what are good applications, what is a good product strategy, and how do you actually solve problems for your users. So these are some examples. There's a lot more which are solving new problems with GenAI. And you can look those up later, I won't go into it. But I want to take a quick break to just see, I think the answer should be obvious, but how many people use GenAI to ChatGPT, Bard, etc. every week, at least once a week? Okay, that's great. What about every day? Wow, okay. Perfect, so I want at least 3 people to volunteer what they use it for, and we'll get a mic to 3 people. Okay, whoever's closest to the mic, I guess. There's one person over there.
I am a teacher, and I use aggressively for generating questions and asking solutions so that how quick my students can get the answers.
Yep.
Things like that.
That's awesome. Okay, great. One more over there.
For code.
Perfect. Amazing. One more over there.
For debugging and code, optimization of code for this purpose is used.
Okay, perfect. Well, yeah, no, that's very, sorry. That's helpful. There's a few more questions. This might take a bit longer. So you use GenAI for things today, and you've probably noticed some limitations, right? So take a minute, not a minute actually, we don't have that much time. Take a few seconds. What is your dream use case? Like, what is something that doesn't exist today, but you can almost imagine it? 3 people. One over there.
Combining Neuralink with ChatGPT.
Yep. You just don't even have to use a computer. Just think about it. Perfect. 2 more. Let's go over there. Sorry, I have to go to the other side. No, okay, go.
Okay, so I'm basically more into design guy. Like I like how to build system, but don't actually build them. तो अगर कुछ इस तरह का मॉडल आ जाए कि we just give it description और it gives exact answer कि किस तरह एक सॉफ्टवेयर बन सकता है, तो we will really like it कि इस तरह भी काम हो सकता है. And I'm seeing this pattern कि there's something wrong with this. I'm seeing this pattern कि अभी चीज़ें उस तरफ जा रही हैं, तो I'm hoping कि इस तरह का एक perfect model आ जाए कि we just give it a design and वो हमें कोड पूरा करके दे दे.
Yeah. Hello. Yeah, we'll definitely talk about that. That's a great one. One more. Okay, over there. We're getting down there. Niche. Blue shirt mein.
Hello.
But
Sorry. You go first. Real quick.
एक्चुअली मैं चाह रहा हूँ कि आर्किटेक्चर डिज़ाइनिंग के ऊपर हो ज़्यादा वर्किंग और साथ में पाइथन के ऊपर जैसे हम लोग टेक्स्ट टू स्पीच पे आते हैं तो जनरेटिव आए में इशू आता है और काफ़ी फास्ट है वो स्पीकिंग में उसको स्लो करना और ह्यूमनाइज में आए ज़्यादा बेटर हो.
Perfect. Real quick.
Yeah, so ChatGPT or any generative AI model coming into reality, perceiving the environment, and being a co-pilot of our life, like telling us what to do, what to take, what to not in our real time.
So in like a robotic form?
No, just like the Ray-Ban Meta glasses, they are just perceiving the reality. They are telling you to on every step that you're taking.
Yeah,
So,
okay, we'll talk about that as well.
Being a co-pilot
Perfect.
of your life.
Okay, very helpful. Thank you so much. Can we have a round of applause for everyone who contributed? This is great. Okay, so there were some numbers earlier, but I think this is what really matters. That's just what happened in the last year. But there's I think we heard a $300 trillion total value first, but this is also along those lines. According to this McKinsey report, there's $4 trillion of value every year to be added just using GenAI. That's massive because for comparison, the entire GDP of the UK, which used to own the entire world at some point, it's $3 trillion. So there's so much value that we can still create. And what should we be looking forward to? Again, the key takeaway I want all of you to get from this is, and that's sort of what we do at labs as well, you can't build for what is available now. Because if you build for what is available now only and don't think about what's coming, then you'll just be stuck doing that. Obviously you need to build some solutions right now and you need to play with them, but you also need to keep in mind what is coming in 2 years, 3 years down the road. There's general patterns, GPUs will get cheaper, faster, all these things will happen. And what will you build then that you can't build now? You need to know that today to be able to build it. So first thing, I'll talk about a few themes. One thing that's very hot right now, because it's been a whole year of working on this new model, is Gemini. So, oh, cool, thank you. I didn't do too much, but so Gemini is really special. First off, obviously, it beats not only GPT-4. This is Gemini Ultra, by the way. Not only GPT-4, but also human experts on most benchmarks that people really know their fields. So 89.8% human eval, 90% Gemini Ultra. But that's not really the Gemini superpower, and this is what I want to focus on. So Gemini is built from the ground up to be multimodal. So for every other model out there, it's based on text alone. So you can insert images and you can insert audio, but it all gets converted into text. The text goes into the model and text comes out of the model, and then it can be converted into other things. But this is different. So everything that you put into Gemini, images, audio, video, and some of these are still coming up next year. You can't actually use some of this stuff right now, but everything that you put in is all tokens. So everything is native. The model actually understands the world around you really well. And why does that matter? It's a little hard to see when you first, I think we're also still figuring out what the true capabilities are for Gemini, just to show the world what it can do. But there are some demos, and I hope this plays. Do I click next? No. Can we play one of these? No? No. Okay, sad. That's sad. You should go watch some of these demos because we're trying to basically push Gemini to its limits and trying to show you why does it matter that it can understand images and why does it matter that it can output audio. And these demos are really helpful for that. It's called Hands-On with Gemini on YouTube. Cool. High level, it goes from anything to anything. Like here, you can show it like, what can I do with this yarn? And it can stitch an image to show you what you can do. So this is just to get your mind started on what is possible now, because it's not just text. Of course, on multimodal benchmarks, it obviously is the best model out there now because it's built using it. And I think this is Gemini V1, by the way. There's lots more to come next year. There's 3 sizes. You can use Ultra, which is what these benchmarks are from. Pro is in Bard, and Nano is for smartphones. And we'll talk about that as well. So, okay, that was Gemini. Number 2, ask and adjust. So a lot of the interaction that you have with the model today is you say something in chat, it gives you something back, you say something more. It's not very efficient. It's not how you work, really. You don't chat with someone like that in a linear fashion. If you ask ChatGPT or Bard to give you some code and update it, it's like a whole new file, and you have to like figure out what's going on. So I think we'll see a lot more moving towards a director's mode situation, so you can take a step back, ask the model to create, or this will probably be integrated into multiple like creation software, so Figma and Visual Studio and things like that. So you can ask for a first draft, and then all your further prompts will be about specific aspects of that draft. And you'll probably be 70% there, 80% there. So different interaction mechanisms. We don't know what exactly it'll look like, but we're definitely going to move away from a chatbot. Small models, so someone mentioned this before, very important because, so Mistral, if you've heard, Mistral 7B works on a laptop. Gemini Nano works on a Pixel phone. And Apple is, like, obviously they won't release anything right now, but they're definitely working on an LLM that runs on your phone. So why does that matter? Because now you can, instead of using APIs or using quota, every developer, every Android developer could just use an LLM in their app. And that means you can have completely new kinds of apps and completely new kinds of interactions with everything that we don't even know about yet. This is like probably a 2024 thing where people start using these libraries and then realizing that you can actually do so much on a small local model. Ray-Ban glasses, that was you, yeah. So, I mean, when the glasses first came out, this is sort of like Google Glass was a thing 10 years ago, probably ahead of its time. So what's the link between being able to see things and then something like a chatbot? The main thing that changes is that now you have a way to interact with your surroundings. Because not only can you put things on your surroundings, you can actually ask questions about them. And you can ask questions, it can show you information, so we have a whole new form of ambient computing. That's not it. There's also just brand new hardware that no one had thought of. Again, this one, the AI pin, if you've seen, this might not be it. This might not work, But the point is that we're able to try these things out now. So we can move beyond a smartphone. Why? Because we finally have an interaction mechanism where you can say something and the device can understand it and comprehend it and then try to do different things based on it. Obviously, a lot of things need to happen. Function calling needs to work, and a lot of different things need to happen, but we're talking about 2 years later. We're talking about all the smart people who are working on this, figuring these things out so that all of us can build technology that uses all these capabilities. And then just to close it out here, this is just literally a blank smartphone, because I think my dream device with GenAI is one where you open a phone and you don't have to look for an app. You don't have to figure out what you need to do, whether you need to send email or book a Kareem ride or order Foodpanda or whatever, anything you want to do. You should just be able to tell it to the phone. You should be able to express it in natural language or write it out, and it should be able to figure out what needs to be done. And that, I think, would be sort of the smartphone of the future, which might not be that far away. So yeah, just think about what we can build being prepared for that future and as part of that future. And that's all. Thank you. Do we have time for questions? Okay, questions. Over there.
Good afternoon. I am the sort of person who has an artistic inclination, so I would like to bridge the two together. So I would want to ask that human creativity basically depends on taking an input, processing it, and producing an output. And that's like somewhat similar to how AI models work. So do you think human creativity could be completely replaced, or is it something that is fundamentally different from how AI models work?
That's a good question. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of philosophical views on that, and people are still debating whether or not that's possible, right? Because yes, you're right. Like the way Midjourney works, like it's trained on everything that we've produced and how we produced it. It might get close to like creating, going through that input-output flow, but I think again, my own personal belief is that what it will do is just make that creativity process better for us. So instead of starting from a blank slate, like we do today, you have a completely blank canvas, which might still be the case if you're doing art purely for fun. But then if you're doing your art probably for a cause, for like, marketing, for selling something, for showing some imaginative creativity, you can start with something and then you can tweak it. And what that means is that you can do a lot more. Like what used to take 5 days can now take 1 hour. So again, like the creative process is that you are thinking of what you want to imagine. The AI is not taking that away. You're thinking about it, you're replacing it, you're updating it because you know how to connect to humans and you know what message you want. I don't think it will get it perfect on the first try. Like you want to create a brand campaign or something, it's not going to get it perfect, I think. Okay, yeah.
Hello. So just want to know that how would you ensure while you're rolling out new features and in the AI space in terms of security and democratization because this has been an issue before when I believe certain features were rolled out past 1 to 2 years before, and then it was actually pulled back in certain markets across the world. So how do you guys ensure that it complies with security and it's democratized worldwide according to the rules and regulations of different markets?
Do you mean like at Google or in general for anyone?
At Google, yeah.
Okay, so again, I can't represent Google's official views or like that has to be more of a press question, but according to my like personal understanding and experience, like I think Google probably more than other companies like has that as the foremost concern. Like it's not good enough to say that we're better than everyone else at doing it, but like from what I see, like there's multiple checks and balances and layers of supervision to ensure that what we're launching is secure to the best possible degree, and yeah. So I think that's literally like probably the #1 concern before anything else, before the quality, size of the model, like that still comes later. The first thing is this safe and secure and can we launch it everywhere? So those are definitely focus areas. Yes, over here.
Thank you so much for the great talk. What kind of work you guys are doing at the labs, and what expertise explicitly are needed to be part of your team?
Okay, that's a good question. So our main focus is building what will be possible 2 years from now. We're building for that future, which means we have limitations today. Like the model is not too big, it's not too fast. We don't account for them. We try to build experiments that maybe in 2 years will work. Right now, they might not work. So it's very experimental. We have small teams of like 3 to 4 people who try to come up with an idea, work on it until we get somewhere. And then the labs.google website that I flashed earlier, that is where we want to share it with the world. And the focus is again, like we're trying to build products that might not have existed without Gen AI. So if something could have existed before, we're not that interested in it. If something is just adding one feature to like a bigger product, we're not interested in it as much. It's all about new products. The specific experiments, the ones that are public, are all going to be on that website. Everything else, obviously, we're still working on, so we can't discuss it too much. But Notebook LM is probably the biggest experiment that we've launched recently. And as for the team, what it takes, I think, is, so we're obviously a small organization within Google. It's like 300 people, and Google is massive. Google is like tens of thousands of engineers. What it takes is you need to be a bit more experimental, and you need to take more risks, because at other parts of Google, like, you have a very stable sort of product that you're working on. If you're working on YouTube or Gmail, you're working on a tiny incremental thing. You don't need to take risks. Here, it's all about thinking bigger and like trying something and knowing that it will fail, most likely. Like 90% of the things we make will fail. So what it takes is like you need to be a bit more of a risk-taking person, and you need to be able to try different things very quickly and learn from them and then move on.
Okay, now, I think we have time for just one more question. So, do you want to pick someone?
Over there. Black sweater.
Firstly, the talk was amazing about
Thank you.
Gemini and all. So my question is about your view regarding how there is this war between the companies like OpenAI versus Google versus, you could say, Twitter for Grok, like various AI models are being rolled out. So what do you think is the future of these models, like the monopolization of the market? Is the war going to just continue? Like, is ChatGPT better, or is Gemini Ultra better, or are we going to advance towards, uniting on the forefront and like working on the same set of data?
So I think from a business standpoint, like everyone is probably going to keep building their models for sure. One thing we haven't talked about here, but is very important, is open source models, which, so Mistral and Llama are going to be very important. Like they might not get all the way to the top models like GPT-4 or Gemini Ultra, but they will continue to be very important, and that is really good for the entire world. Like they might not be the best, but again, that means anyone can download it, fine tune it, use it for their own purposes. As for like whether there will be one model that just gets better than everyone else, it is definitely not impossible. Like obviously AGI, and there's talks of like, maybe there's one thing that we make that can actually replace us. So all of those, like, used to be crazy science fiction a few years ago, and now suddenly we can see steps towards that. But barring that, I think for the near future, we're probably going to see everyone building their own models, and they'll all be useful in some way. And I think we'll probably start to think of them as commodities that you can use and plug into different applications. Like especially the mobile version of this, like we'll probably see that being more of a developer library, so you can do so many things with it. Good question. Okay, that is all the time we have. Thank you so much. Again, you can add me on LinkedIn if you have any follow-ups, and I'll be around for some time.